Well, the phrase vaccine mandates will send a shiver up a lot of people's spines, and with very good reason. But the gift that keeps on giving, New Zealand, the topic that I just seem to be unable to get away from in the last couple of weeks here on the Aussie Wire. I'm joking, we love you guys. It keeps on giving. And this topic of vaccine mandates in New Zealand just got very, very interesting. It's a story I wouldn't know about if it weren't for the excellent work of Rebekah Barnett, a regular here on the Aussie Wire. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks, Topher. Good to be here.
Now, you published a blog on this, and it kind of blew my mind in a number of different directions for a number of different reasons. But before I go down the rabbit holes that I want to explore on this particular topic, can you just bring us up to speed? What has been uncovered that you've reported on, but it was through somebody else's work? What has been uncovered about vaccine mandates in New Zealand?
Yeah, so New Zealand had pretty tough vaccine mandates, maybe not as tough as some of the Australian states, but definitely one of the tougher ones in the world. And the healthcare industry was mandated. So anyone who didn't want a vaccine had to resign or was sacked. And there's a lot of first-person accounts of being sacked or applying for a exemption and not getting it. Maybe they had a bad reaction to their first shot, and they had a similar atmosphere in New Zealand to what we did here, where medical professionals reportedly were very reluctant to give exemptions. So in that context, an FOI was released, so FOI, Freedom of Information Request, a response from the New Zealand Healthcare Provider Service, saying that there's a special type of exemption. It's for service disruption. Like if a person is a very important kind of cog in the machine, that an exemption can be issued, because if you were to lose that person out of the workforce, the whole system would grind to a halt.
Right.
And it turns out that under that special provision, that the Ministry of Health issued up to 11,005, so just over 11,000 public service health workers, COVID vaccine exemptions, which is really shocking. Yeah, it's really shocking when you consider that there are many healthcare workers who have reported that they were cut off from their livelihood and were not able to obtain an exemption. And there's a general thought that perhaps that this applied to people who were in high up positions, because those kind of higher ups, like surgeons or people who run big departments, might be less disposable, say, than an RN. And so a bit of a feeling that this is a letting your mates off the hook kind of scenario.
Well, of course, we need to stress we don't know that for a fact yet, but it is so often the case when Freedom of Information requests bring new information to light, they raise far more questions than they answer. Now, you've written an excellent blog about this, which is why I know about this topic. I wouldn't know about it if it weren't for your work. You wouldn't know about it if it weren't for the work of the people in New Zealand doing the FOIs, and I hope in future to be able to bring them onto the Aussie Wire as well. But for now, sticking with what we know, there are 80,000 odd healthcare workers employed in New Zealand, of which we believe about 11,000, had exemptions. Do we have any information at this point as to how many people might have exercised or acted on that exemption? Having it is one thing.
No, there's a woman called Ursula Edgington. I don't want to say her name wrong. I think it's Ursula Edgington. I have linked to her Substack in mine, so people can go and have a look at the work she's doing. She has done a number of FOIs herself, and she's been trying to piece it all together, and there seems to be information that doesn't marry up. So she's doing the ongoing effort of trawling through all the nitty-gritty, trying to figure out how many of these exemptions were actually exercised. So the bottom line is we don't know yet.
This is such important work. There's a lot of people that are very keen, especially those in power, are very keen to move on. Oh, COVID is ancient history. Don't you know we're on to World War III season now? We were on to, what was it? Russell Brand lynching season was just a couple of months ago. That's old news already. We've moved on from that even. There is a desire from those in power, those who made these decisions, to move on and to leave it all behind. Oh, it's all irrelevant. Why are we still reliving the past? But of course, for those who were mandated and chose to lose their jobs instead, or for those who were mandated and took that I daren't say vaccine, but took that therapy under duress, this is a very real and ongoing issue for them, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. If you've been coerced into taking additional shots after having a reaction to your first one, there are people reportedly still suffering physically from being put in that situation. So it's pretty galling to someone in that situation to find that others were just given a free pass. And this was secret too. This wasn't published in the media. This had to be extracted from the government by way of a Freedom of Information request. So there was definitely a perception, according to the reports of healthcare workers and just monitoring media reports at the time, there was a perception that no one was getting an exemption, or very few people. So don't even try.
Yeah.
And that everyone at the top levels was just getting on with it and getting their shot and doing the right thing, and so should you. So it is pretty galling for them now to discover that secretly all along, had people in these positions wanted to avail themselves of the exemption, they could have been injecting everyone else, but not having to have it themselves. Or they could have been doing surgery on, goodness knows how many people a day, unvaxxed, if they wanted to, while the people assisting them had to have it.
Well, look, we say again, we don't know for sure what the information is. We don't know for sure what the numbers would be, or who was in what position that took advantage of this exemption. We just know that this exemption existed and it was secret, as you say. Rebekah Barnett, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I know you're going to stay across this story, and I look forward to getting updates from you. Ursula, if you do happen to come across this video, I don't know why you would, but if you do, well done. And we're going to be reaching out to you shortly to try and get a little bit closer to the source of the person who's really sifting through this information, and see what you're uncovering and see what else we can learn here at the Aussie Wire. Rebekah Barnett, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Topher.